What happens when a megachurch goes full March Madness in the Hoosier State using basketball to assist the Bible? My name is David. Welcome to Church Visit number 39 of 52 Churches in 52 Weeks, round 3, where for this one, I may be a little bit of a dork and try and use as many basketball word plays in this video as I can. We'll see. For many churches, the two biggest services of the year are Christmas and Easter, and the seeker-sensitive evangelical approach has long looked for ways to expand this, because if you want to speak the language of the people, you need to be relatable. Throughout the course of this spiritual project, I've long traveled the country to attend some of the most trend-setting megachurches in the United States. And typically with many, they've relied on that rock band type of worship experience, that emotion-fueled excitement to bring and attract new churchgoers. A few months ago, I posted my video at Life Church, which is based in Oklahoma, and I attended one of their At the Movies sermon series skits. And that was interesting to see, because what that church was doing is they decorated their entire lobbies during the month of July based off a movie. So the one that I attended, they decorated their lobby with this Willy Wonka type of look, and they served popcorn and Coke and candy, and you would watch a sermon that was kind of twisted in with a movie to, again, just attract that type of churchgoer who may have been hurt by the church in the past, or may have never gone to church before, and they're trying to attract someone to create a relationship with Jesus Christ. Last year, I also attended this Cincinnati area megachurch, where it was like the week before was Super Bowl Sunday, and they went all in with this huge extravaganza to, again, bring in new people, and that was becoming a tradition within that church. So in all these examples, again, they're trying to be relatable to bring in new people. But the one question that you have to ask is this an effective long-term solution to creating a relationship with Jesus Christ? Or are these type of methods, this marketing, being a little bit too much of the world? So the evangelical megachurch, that approach, if you want to reach people, you need to be able to speak their language. Well, in the state of Indiana, that language and that culture is basketball. Even James Naismith, the inventor of basketball, noticed it. In 1925, he witnessed the Indiana State Finals, and after seeing 15,000 screaming fans, he remarked that the origins of basketball really got its start in Indiana. It was the center of the sport. And that passion starts at a very young age, especially during high school. The most famous example of this was 1954's Milan's Miracle, where a high school of 161 students ended up upsetting a school 10 times its size to win the state title. Even along the way, they beat future NBA Hall of Famer Oscar Robertson. That story inspired the very popular movie Hoosiers. And that's just the start. The Indiana Hoosiers have often been one of college basketball's staples, thanks in much part to Coach Bobby Knight. Even in the NBA and the professional level, the Indiana Pacers have had many playoff runs, especially during the legendary years of Reggie Miller. And more recently, Caitlin Clark, this female phenomenon for women's basketball, she has created this March Madness type of hype with the WNBA's Indiana Fever. As I record this, March Madness is in full swing. The Sweet 16 is this upcoming weekend. And a TikTok video recently gained some traction that featured Northview Church in Carmel, Indiana, just north of Indianapolis. And it was showing just this full-blown March Madness theme that they had going on inside. So naturally, attending so many different churches, I was curious. I want to go visit this to see this for myself, because how does their creativity for basketball, how are they utilizing that to preach the gospel? So this past weekend, I made a drive out there, and let's just call it their Final Forgiveness. Before we tip off with this one, during this third round of 52 and 52, we're trying to make a difference in others' lives. So we're running a full court press on childhood cancer, raising funds for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital to help families find hope and healing during some of the worst catastrophic times of their life. Right now, as a community, we've raised over $26,000 towards our $52,000 goal, and we're trying to slam dunk that by the end of this round. So to everyone that has been making a difference, donating, saying prayers, you're helping us score where it matters most. Want to say thank you very much for all your support. All right, time to inbound the ball and dive in. Let's take a look at how Northview Church mixes basketball and faith. I'll be back in a few moments to share some takeaways. Heading in, I was so curious to see the creativity for what this church was going to do, combining March Madness basketball with the Bible. So it's like in my head, like I'm picturing all these different scenarios, like maybe David versus Goliath, the original 16th seed upsetting the number 1 seed with Goliath, because David didn't just slay the giant, he busted every bracket in ancient Israel. Then it's like I'm also thinking, okay, maybe you could do something with Esther and how she was the original Cinderella team. And when she thwarted Haman's plans, like the entire PA system throughout the Israelite kingdom started playing One Shining Moment. And then obviously you could also maybe use Jesus Christ defeating death in overtime, because just when you thought the clock ran out on the cross, 3 days later, Jesus Christ makes the greatest comeback in history by saving all of our sins. So it's like, that's kind of what I'm picturing walking in. And from my recap that you'll take away from this video, it wasn't anything like that. I don't typically look up a church's website or Facebook before visiting, and I do that on purpose because I want to walk in blind so I don't have any biases creeping in. But with Northview Church, I had to figure out which location to go to, because apparently there's 12 different ones. And then on top of that, you also have to figure out which service time that you're going to. as I was trying to figure that out, I came across their Facebook page, and they were promoting where you could win Elite Eight March Madness tickets for next weekend when the NCAA March Madness tournament enters Indianapolis. So I've never seen a church offer something like that before. So when I got into Carmel, Indiana, I was like, this was a very, very nice suburban neighborhood. That seems to be the trend at a lot of the Midwest megachurches that I've gone to personally. So when my GPS told me to turn, I thought I was in this high-end golf course. Just the facilities around here were just absolutely pristine. I found a parking spot. They also had parking for first-time visitors at the very front, and I just followed a couple in front of me to figure out which door to go to. And the first thing that I noticed in their lobby was they had 5 huge posters of some basketball greats. So I remember they had a poster of Steph Curry, who plays for the Golden State Warriors. And then they had Larry Bird, Caitlin Clark, and Magic Johnson. So Magic Johnson, Larry Bird are, these NBA Hall of Famers. And then Caitlin Clark, she's an amazing athlete and just made a lot of hoopla when she played at Iowa. She's only played 1 year so far with the Indiana Fever. So again, her popularity is so high. But to see her right next to Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, talk about just an absolute testament to her abilities so far. The main hook, the main attraction for your eyes walking in was the basketball court. So they had 2 volunteers that were dressed up as referees, and they had these white basketballs, and the referees were just pretty much helping out anyone that wanted to take a shot inside. So I think for a lot of people who were in this lobby area, you kind of had to keep an eye on the basketball court because you didn't know if maybe a shot was going to ricochet off the rim. You don't want to get your face hit by a basketball, So one other observation was the choice of white basketballs. So I don't know if it was a marketing thing or maybe these white basketballs were maybe just a little bit softer in case, if you did have an accident with someone walking in the auditorium and it hit their face, because I'm sure that could have been a liability. I don't know. But they also had these little display areas where it looks like you could take photos in front of these white basketballs. One of the things I really enjoyed about Northview Church is their production values was top notch. So the stage was designed like a basketball court. They even had a basketball hoop, and just tons of graphics were flashing on their screens. One thing that I've noticed within the past year or so by attending other seeker-sensitive evangelical type of megachurches is the rock band will come out typically 5 minutes before the start of actual worship service, and they'll play this remix of secular music, all to get people inside the auditorium for the actual start of worship. Here, they didn't quite do that, especially with a rock band, but they were playing some pump-up basketball tunes to kind of go in theme with that March Madness vibe. So for instance, I'm going to try and do some really bad impressions on this, but when Michael Jordan had his legendary run with the Chicago Bulls, winning 6 NBA finals, they often had to have this introduction music from the Alan Parsons Project, basically dun 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 dun. So they played that. They also played the the we will rock you. They also played some other music, but my impressions would just be absolutely terrible if I tried to attempt those. So I'm gonna steer away from those. So inside, there were 2 services, one at 9 a.m., one at 11 a.m. I was a little surprised. The busier service was actually the 11 a.m. one, closer to noon. And kind of like other type of evangelical church services, it's a tale of two halves. The first half is worship. The second half is a sermon. They basically marched out with these people who were going to be getting baptisms. So they all were wearing these black shirts and black shorts. And then the rock band would come out and they performed their music. And what was interesting about this is the baptisms that were going on were actually behind the rock band. So as everyone is worshiping, you could see on the two big jumbo screens everyone that was getting baptized. So I really kind of liked how they did that. Like, it wasn't out in front of everyone. So for those that were getting baptized, they still had a little bit of privacy to speak with people. So like they could actually hear each other behind that rock band. So yeah, very, very different. But you could tell there was a lot of emotions that were going on for those people that were getting baptized. And it was just very special to witness. At the halfway point, they played this video package that highlighted the pastor and his grade school-aged daughter who had taken a huge interest in basketball. But one of the setbacks that she had was she had seizures. And her parents didn't know about it because it wasn't like the shaking seizures. Like, they didn't find out until one of her birthday parties where she just passed out. And they got the diagnosis that she had like these almost like still seizures. But despite that, she was still able to overcome and has been quite successful as she continues to play basketball, despite the seizures happening maybe once or twice a month. So this is where things took quite a different turn, because just minutes into the sermon, there was a huge commotion that was going on downstairs. I've never witnessed anything like this before. And I couldn't see exactly what was happening from my vantage point, but I could see several people turning around in their seats, just a lot of stirring that was going on, and several people were running around. So immediately the pastor kind of took back attention, and we all just sat in prayer. And it was basically like we were basically forced to call a timeout during the sermon. So he then asked the production team, like, what were the next steps? He also asked the campus pastors at the other satellite locations to take over their respective campuses, because all of these campuses were streaming this particular sermon. So everything went dark, and the pastor just stood there for about 10 or 15 minutes as the EMTs worked on this individual downstairs. So it was a little bit different. And like, as I was praying for the individual, there's also a part of me also kind of wondering, like, as a church, what do you do with a contingency situation like this? Do you just have a never-ending prayer that you do, or maybe you have someone from the worship team, maybe who plays the keyboard and maybe just plays some relaxing music to assist? Like, what do you do? Because like, continuing on with the sermon in that situation was not an option at that point. It was just a different situation, and you got to give credit to the church staff and the first responders in a situation like this, because you never expect to see something like this happen. So eventually the pastor continued on with the sermon, and what I really appreciated with him is he was just authentic and real. He was rattled after this, like all of us. And there were several parts during his sermon where you could tell like he just wasn't in it anymore. And he even mentioned at some parts where he's like, I don't know if I can give the rest of this sermon. So he continued on. So it was based off Paul and Romans 6. And I don't recall any particular basketball tie-in to kind of fit in with that March Madness theme. But the pastor, he finished the sermon, and you just kind of left that church service just kind of thinking about how life is so fragile, and like just something that is so unexpected that can happen in a church service like this. Like, I've never witnessed anything like that. And afterwards, it's just like I was praying for that individual who just had something going on that just required immediate medical attention. After the church service, for me, like, I was still rattled. So I took a few pictures, a few videos inside, and I noticed the church staff had come together downstairs for this big huddle, this big prayer that they had. And oftentimes when I'm at these bigger churches, you see so many friends and family together. I go to these solo, so I often feel very invisible. And as I was walking around, I got talking with one of the ushers. Great guy, had a great conversation. And I asked, how that individual was doing, and was given some reassurance from him. I also mentioned I was a first-time visitor. He walked me straight to the welcome desk, and we parted ways. Met this new gentleman, great guy as well. We got talking a lot about March Madness the night before because we both had watched the Wisconsin BYU game. And with some of these bigger churches, they always give you kind of this gift basket. This was theirs with a little bit of a referee theme going on. So they didn't have much, but they had this really nice beverage cup and then also a couple of cookies. But the big thing that I remember from him is he was big on their app, which here it says, "Welcome to the party." He was kind of giving me directions to scan this on my phone so I could get the app, and then that way I could follow along with Northview Church in the future. So that was my visit. Hope you enjoyed this look into Northview Church in Indiana. For our next visit, it's going to be church visit number 40. This past weekend, I did a lot of traveling and also ended up in Battle Creek, Michigan to explore the birthplace of the Seventh-day Adventist Church with their own pioneers. So I attended their Battle Creek Tabernacle for a church service, probably one of the longer ones I've ever attended. And then afterwards, I got a tour of their historic Adventist village that has several locations, several buildings that is in relationship with those early pioneer days for this church. So if you want to stay tuned for that, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit notifications for when that video posts. But until next time, hope you have a good one.